Welcome back to MUTV's Week 3 college football coverage. It's the final segment, and joining me is Chelsea Roemer, ready to represent her fellow MUTV staffers in an old segment with a new look. We've brought you picks from around the SEC before, but now we're really expanding the fun. From this moment through the rest of the season, the 8 MUTV sports execs will predict the winners of the games that we showcase here in this segment. We will keep track of records through a point system. Each win is worth 1 point, except for my game of the week, which is worth 2. There will also be a 9th contestant, the staffers, who will be represented by whoever's on air with me that week, in this case, Chelsea Roemer. At the end of the year, whoever has the best record wins the best prize of all, bragging rights. Did you bring the winning picks with you tonight, Chelsea?
Oh, yeah, I definitely did.
All right, a lot of confidence coming here. I like it. We're going to start off with a really big game, probably the biggest game of the SEC conference slate so far this year. The top-ranked Alabama Crimson Tide traveling to Oxford, Mississippi to take on the number 10 Rebels. Who's going to take this game, Chelsea?
Okay, so for this one, I picked Alabama. Last week, the Rebels blew a 22-point lead against Florida State. So with that, obviously, their defense is a little bit shaken up. So the Alabama quarterback, Jalen Hurts, passed for 287 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he led Alabama to a victory over Western Kentucky. So with this, if you blow a 22-point lead, that's, hard to recover from,
right.
And I think that Alabama's going to be able to go roll over Ole Miss.
Yeah, I picked Alabama as well, as it looks like everyone did except for Jake Cookson. Jake Cookson rolling with the Rebels. I thought Alabama just looked really, really good against USC opening week. That was a big win for them. And like you said, maybe if Ole Miss can, play the way they did in the first half against Florida State, maybe they'll have a chance. But the way they looked in that second half, blowing such a big lead, I don't know. I'm definitely going with the Crimson Tide. One thing to keep in mind, the last 2 seasons, Alabama has lost just 1 regular season game. Both those games were against Ole Miss. So maybe Coach Hugh Freeze has the Crimson Tide figured out. Who knows? I'm still rolling with the Tide. All right, next we'll go to Atlanta, where Vanderbilt will play against Georgia Tech. Can the Commodores steal this one on the road?
I picked Georgia Tech to win. They know how to run the ball and take really good shots down the field. Their quarterback, Justin Thomas, has thrown 8 yards per attempt, so he's doing pretty well. Last week they played Mercer, and they had 2 turnovers, and they had a really early deficit in the game, and they came back to win 35-10. And I think with that, they struggled, but they were able to pull it back together, so I think that they could definitely beat Vanderbilt.
Yeah, it looks like if you go to the board over there, Georgia Tech has 6 execs going with them. We got 3 for Vanderbilt. I'm rolling with Georgia Tech. I think that Vanderbilt has a pretty solid defense, but their offense is just absolutely atrocious. This is a team that lost to South Carolina. South Carolina lost to the Citadel last year. That's a program in upheaval. I don't know. I just can't buy the idea of Vanderbilt going to Atlanta and being a Georgia Tech team that's had a lot of success running that option attack over the last few years. I think that Georgia Tech wins kind of a low-scoring offensive struggle, but I do think that they get it done. All right, big game in Death Valley. Mississippi State traveling to Baton Rouge to play number 20 LSU. Do the Bulldogs have a shot in this one?
No, I picked LSU to win. I know right now LSU has Danny Etling and Brandon Harris, and they're competing for starting quarterbacks. They really need to get that figured out. But the Mississippi quarterback, Nick Fitzgerald's actually doing really well. Last week he set a record for rushing yards. So I think really the key to this game is if they stop Fitzgerald, then they'd stop the offense from scoring. So I think LSU needs to take control of that, and if they stop him, they have this game in the bag.
Yeah, it looks like no one has faith in Mississippi State. Looks like LSU is the unanimous pick across the board. Man, that's kind of tough to swallow from Mississippi State. But they did lose to South Alabama already this year. Their win is against South Carolina, so that's not really that meaningful. I will say, picking against LSU in Baton Rouge is very tough to do. The LSU Tigers, 94-13 at home since the year 2000. One of the toughest venues in college football to play in. I see LSU winning this one pretty handily. All right, next we go to South Carolina, looking to rebound from last week's loss. They'll play host to East Carolina this week. Who do you think is going to win?
Okay, so I took East Carolina on this one. The quarterback, Philip Nelson, is completing over 80% of his passes, so he's obviously doing really well. Eastern Carolina seems very comfortable offensively, so I think they're really going to take advantage of that. The Pirates were able to beat North Carolina with a close score of 33-30, so I think they're just going to keep going. I don't think that they're going to struggle.
Yeah. It looks like we got ECU 6 to South Carolina 3. Looks like we got the host of TW23 plus our social media coordinator Isaac Johns going with the Gamecocks. Everyone else going with ECU. My thing with ECU, I look at them as a giant killer. I grew up in the DC area. Lots of VT fans over there. I can't tell you how many times ECU has beaten good Virginia Tech teams over the years. This is a team that's never afraid of power conference teams. They've beaten Virginia Tech each of the last 2 seasons, including a game in Lane Stadium when the Hokies were ranked. I think that ECU will not have a problem with the bottom feeder of the SEC. All right, huge SEC West matchup here. The Auburn Tigers welcoming number 17 Texas A&M to Jordan-Hare Stadium. Will Auburn knock off the Aggies?
No, they will not. Texas A&M is really hot right now. They won in overtime versus UCLA a couple weeks ago, and then they took a win 67-0 over Prairie View A&M. So quarterback Trevor Knight has had over 50% passing for both games so far, and they're really athletic on defense, really strong. They have amazing speed, and I think that if they use that to their advantage, they will not be stopped. I think they are doing really well, and they're just going to keep going.
Looks like most of the execs are with you. It looks like it's 6-3 in favor of Texas A&M, but I'm actually going to disagree with you on this one. I'm taking the Auburn Tigers at home. They played a nice game against Clemson, only lost by 6 in their home opener, and this is a team that I feel like plays tough at home. It's always tough to go into these SEC West games on the road and get that win. I think that Texas A&M hasn't really proven themselves to be a giant killer. They haven't really won most of their big games the last few years. Even with Johnny Manziel, I feel like, they played Duke in a bowl game, so that can't be very good. I think that this is going to be the first trip up for Texas A&M this year, and will be a solid but not great season. I think that the Auburn's going to show that the Texas A&M is a bit of a pretender at number 17. All right, my game of the week, the one that everyone's been waiting for, the Mizzou Tigers coming off a huge win. The number 16 Georgia Bulldogs, who barely escaped Nicholls State last week. They're looking to restabilize now. Who do you think is going to pull off the win?
Okay, so for this one, I had to take Georgia. I think after the close game against Nicholls, that was kind of a smack in the face for them to have a reality check to pull themselves together. And so I know they've been working really hard on defense, and I think with that, they don't want to be embarrassed by losing to Mizzou. So I think they're going to try to do everything they can not to. And Georgia is 2-0 right now, but I think it's going to be 3-0 after Saturday's game.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that Georgia is fuming after how close they played a very, very bad opponent in Nicholls State, an FCS opponent. I think they're going to come out heated. I think they're going to get on the board early. And I think that Nick Chubb is going to run all over a Tigers defense that has been struggling so far this year. Another thing that I have to say is that, the last year and a half or so, the last season and then going into this season, I just haven't seen a big performance from the Tigers, even a competent performance from the Tigers, in any game against a good opponent. They've been able to beat the lesser opponents. They haven't been able to show any sort of competence in games against good opponents. Missouri is the show-me state, and this Tigers team has not shown me anything over the last year and a half. I'm going with Georgia. So is Chelsea. So are 4 of the other execs. That's going to be the favorite this week to roll against Mizzou. But that is all the time we have for today. If you're looking for more sports coverage, we have it here at MUTV Sports 23. Tailgaters at 7 o'clock on Tuesdays. TW23 following immediately after at 8 o'clock, as well as Triple Play at 5:30 on Thursdays. We've got shows out the wazoo, folks, so stay here for all your coverage of Mizzou sports. As always, be sure to follow us on Twitter at 23SportsMUTV for all your Mizzou sports updates. You can also find full episodes of all our shows and read up on every Mizzou sporting event at mutv.missouri.edu. We even have a great streaming service here at MUTV, so make sure to check out mutvstream.missouri.edu for all the movie-watching fun your heart desires. For Max Arnold, Logan Ball, Chelsea Roemer, and everyone here at MUTV, thank you for tuning in. I'm Brendan Lavell. Good night.